So this review is slightly different from my other ones, as upon beating Hi-Fi Rush, I felt the need to start reviewing it right away, completely unscripted. While that review turned out surprisingly coherent and touched on many of the points I wanted to make, I thought I'd use this opportunity to see if my thoughts about the game would change several weeks later when I picked up the game again to complete all the challenges. With that said, the first half of the video will be the unscripted review, and the last half will be my follow-up scripted review. I apologize in advance if anything in the first review sounds like I'm rambling, or I repeat things here and there, but I wanted to leave it mostly unedited, aside from volume adjustments and noise filtering. So, without further ado, here's my review for Hi-Fi Rush.
This is the greatest plan ever!
This is the dumbest plan ever.
Let's hope this works.
So I just beat Hi-Fi Rush, and I'm gonna go into this completely unscripted and just kinda give my thoughts on this. This game really pulled me in from the very beginning. The fact that it was a rhythm platforming fighting game was just so different and unique, and ever since I saw it as a contract last season, I really wanted to get it this season, or just honestly at some point. And I can't believe I'm saying it, but this game was a 10 out of 10 out of the gate. I was just impressed by the fact that everything in the world was synced up to the music. It really made the world feel like it was alive and breathing, and just the whole thing was moving with you. The music is just, I can't say enough about the soundtrack. They really took their time picking songs and creating their own music, and it really shows. All the movement, all the cutscenes, the dialogue, the actions, everything is so perfectly synced up. And being somebody who has no music theory experience or knows anything about music other than playing rhythm games, the fact that I'm this impressed by it, I can only imagine how somebody who has a career in music would feel playing this. I think anybody would enjoy this. There's just so much satisfaction in seeing everything so synchronized. It's such a perfectly complete project. The characters were so relatable and fun to listen to.
Well, I wish you good luck.
Hi.
But I have no idea how to get off this island and feel a little responsible for messing things up.
Great.
They all played off each other so well, and sure, you could say they fill different stereotypes, but they felt so fresh in the way they were delivered in this game. I mean, Chai coming straight out of the gate, I knew he was going to be one of my favorites, well past me finishing this game. He has that fun factor, I guess you could say, about him. He has great comedic timing. He's just off the walls. He's unpredictable.
Look, man, I think we have more in common than we do apart. How about...
He makes for a great protagonist in a game. I think the other big thing coming off of this is just everything in here feels unique. The boss battles, every single one of them was different. Some of them you had to literally play Rock Band to do it. Other ones it was strictly just dodging everything. I think one of my favorite ones was having the green-haired guy. His whole thing was draining the budget, and just seeing all the clinks come out of the budget as he puts more ridiculous things out in the field, it was just hilarious. And I think it really just jived with my sense of humor, and maybe that's what made it so great. Even after the last boss fight, I was wanting more encounters to happen, just because of how unique and fresh everything felt. You know, the combat at first was something that I was having issues with. just a little bit, because I don't have that great of a rhythm. I do better at kind of reacting to things and kind of keeping up with the notes that appear, but just to organically have rhythm was something I was struggling with. But as the game progressed, you know, it gives you so many baby steps to kind of build up to having to kind of organically find that rhythm in and out of encounters. There was a little bar that you could turn on at the bottom of the screen to help you, but as I said before, the entire game world is in sync. There's so many visual cues for me to look at to try to keep up with the rhythm, and I just think that goes such a long way and shows they were so confident in their game design to make keeping with the rhythm a core part of the gameplay loop. And the other thing I will say for the combat is that there are a lot of different combos you can do, but I did manage to beat the game using only one or two of them exclusively. So, you know, if you want a lot of variety, it is here, but if you like to keep things simpler and just kind of go with the flow and use the base things, that also is viable here too. I really loved having that support character system where you can call in your different allies and they can all do different things. That made every encounter really fresh and different for me. God, again, I can't get the music out of my head. It is so good. And this game serves as a prime example of how all the parts need to come together and you can have an amazing thing put out. They took so much time selecting this music, and there's even a streamer mode, and I played a couple of levels in streamer mode that had licensed songs just to kind of see what it would look like. And even still, the original tracks they picked to replace the licensed tracks were so good and fit to what was happening so well. I honestly am still surprised that Bethesda's name is on this, because if you look at anything they've put out recently, this type of like care and quality just wasn't there for those products. I want the team who made this to keep making games. I'd want a Hi-Fi Rush 2, or at least something else within this world. The voice acting was great. All the characters they had so much personality in just the way they inflected their voices, kind of changing things up. It really just made them feel like, it made me feel like I was watching a movie at points because of how good they were acting and how good everything was kind of directed. And especially watching the end credit scenes, I legitimately felt like I just sat through an hour-and-a-half movie and I was getting to watch the culmination and wrapping up of a story. Again, they tied it off so well, but I am pleading to please have another game in this universe. Have a sequel, have DLC, have something, please. It has everything. You even got to play as a cat in one of the levels, which was surprising to me. And even though it was a short bit, it just again added to the factor that this game was so unique and different from anything else I have played that it's gonna stick with me for a long time, and I would honestly recommend this to anybody. Had I played this game when it came out, I would have been singing its praises to be Game of the Year, no matter what. Even though there was Baldur's Gate, even if Elden Ring came out the same year as this game, I would still say this game is 10 out of 10. The only thing that I can think of that is a negative impression I have of the game is sometimes in some of the boss sequences, the rhythm aspect of the game became just a little too much for me, just because it'd be kind of long-winded sequences of having to hit perfectly timed beats. But I will say that after failing it a couple of times, not getting a game over screen, mind you, just failing the sequence once or twice, it seemed they toned down the difficulty on the sequence, and just getting half of it right was enough to push me into the next stage of the boss fight. So I am glad they had that in play here. So then people who do struggle with those harder sequences still can go through without much frustration. But I will say that only happened 1 or 2 times. For the most part, I feel that aspect of the game was really well managed, and the expectations were I feel that expectations were reasonable going through this. So yeah, oh, and the other thing too I will say is the artwork. The artwork in this game, it combines so many different styles, and I remember when I first saw the first couple of cutscenes, it felt like I was back in the theater watching the Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie for the first time. Just the detail and the quality on this comic book style design was just out of this world. And then when sometimes the cutscenes would switch over to a more anime 2D style animation, you could tell the difference, but it was still high quality, and the transitions felt like they were seamless. It felt like, yeah, this is supposed to happen. It didn't feel weird to me, and I just really, really enjoyed seeing this diverse presentation. Even some of the kind of cutscenes where it was, dialogue boxes while you stared at the characters being rendered in-game in real time, those were also good because even the little pictures off the side of the boxes, they were slightly animated. They had different facial expressions. Every time, Peppermint would get annoyed with Chai, the little 2D picture would express that, but her voice would also match it as well.
Chai, watch your step. The generator's still running.
That's shocking.
No. Stop.
And it was just everything in this game syncs so perfectly together. I would give this game a 10 out of 10. This story was great, even if you want to argue it's not something completely new and unique. The characters that they've developed to tell this story made it so refreshing. The penultimate level, that level is something every game designer needs to look to learn how to make memorable levels. The music choice was on point. The characters all coming together and just kind of showing this culmination of how they developed. It made the whole thing so memorable to me. And I think I will point to that for a long time as being one of the best game levels I have ever played. It wasn't even the final level. I would rate that level over the final level and the ending. That's how good it was. But yeah, story was great. Characters were great. Again, the music. I cannot tell you how much I would praise this music. The music is carrying this. It is so good. I feel like if they did not pay attention to the music choice here, this game would not have been as good as it is. But music choice was amazing. And just, again, the presentation, the graphics, the design, all so good. I would highly recommend anybody who is interested in just playing a good game, regardless of what you usually play this game. I don't play many platformers, and I don't play many platformers, and I don't play many strictly single-player games, but this was 110% worth it. Hi-Fi Rush is a must-play for anybody who is interested in gaming. This game would be a great gateway into gaming, even if you are worried about somebody who doesn't do rhythm games or who may not have much rhythm themselves. So yeah, 10 out of 10 for Hi-Fi Rush. Any and everybody should play it. And I am so grateful that I got to experience this.
All right, I'm putting a stop to this.
That's not bad.
Let me know when you decide to give up.
Wow, who let that guy get a hold of the mic? Someone should have cut him off a minute in, but alas, here we are. It's okay. His ramblings can't hurt you here. Nothing but scripted thoughts going forward. Listening to my original thoughts, it seems like I covered everything in that moment. and I still feel as strongly about the game now as I did back then. This was Game of the Year of 2023, hands down. Since my first recording, I've told several friends about the game and how much I recommend they play it. It truly has something for everyone, regardless of what genre of game you play. You would have to hate music and games as a whole to not find anything in this game enjoyable. And it sucks to say I know one person who fits in that category. You know who you are. I said it before and I'll say it again. This game is a prime example of a studio crafting quality parts for everything, including the art style, music, level design, characters, and story. And no corners were cut anywhere. It worked so beautifully that it earned a 10 out of 10 almost immediately. I don't want to belabor everything I said in the unscripted review, but I will focus on the two things that impressed me the most and still have lingering feelings of euphoria, even after beating the game almost a month ago. These two things are the gameplay and the music. Gameplay-wise, this was such a unique idea that I could understand people being apprehensive about trying a platformer so reliant on rhythm. It was worthwhile to me that I think anyone should accept the potential frustrations of having bad rhythm and just embrace the game. It has systems in place to help you with rhythm if you need it. The developers want you to enjoy the game in its entirety, and the well-crafted assistance tools do so in a way where you don't feel like your hand is being held, yet you are still getting assistance. I think there is something so satisfying about not only achieving high-scoring combos, but also seeing it sync up with everything in the world. In a crazy way, this gave the game a surprising amount of replay value, as I found myself not minding any of the heavy fighting sections because it was just so satisfying to do it. It reminded me of playing Batman Arkham City for the first time when I was a kid, where the fluid combat system was so satisfying to use. The other strong point is the character call-in system to aid in fights and traversing the levels. I felt a stronger connection to the side characters due to their constant presence through this system. It helped drive the idea that this team was truly working together and supporting each other, making the ending of the game all the more satisfying. Again, I have to shout out the amazing boss fights in this game. I already spoke about my favorite boss, green-haired budget blower Zanzo, and to all the Reddit posts I read discounting him as a boss, I invite you to take a long walk off a short cliff. Seriously, I was laughing through the entire fight about how ridiculous the fight concept was, and his voice actor's performance just made it a 10 out of 10 experience.
And I am... defunded?
And easily the most memorable boss fight in the game. But I want to mention my second favorite boss here as well. Resident Diva Mimosa and probable furry Rockfort. Yeah, I know that's two bosses as a second favorite, but they rank here for different reasons, and both rightfully so. Mimosa has a great aesthetic, perfectly established with the shark costume you wear leading up to it. The impromptu Guitar Hero battle was the icing on the cake, and was a real hype moment for me. It was like watching your child grow up and finally achieve their dream, as Chai got to truly be a rock star in front of thousands of people. Visually, it was very appealing, with all of the beat notes coming at you, the giant dance floor, the spotlight shining down on enemies. It truly felt like a well-choreographed concert performance. Rockfort, on the other hand, nailed the soundtrack. Reading that a remixed Beethoven song was playing brought a huge grin on my face, as I knew I was in for a treat. And boy, was I right.
You wanna get that tail? You gotta get through me.
Not only was the track itself one to jam to, but all the coins shuffling around sync so well you think it was originally a part of the song. This boss was hard, but I didn't mind restarting a few times since I got to relive the highs of the boss music. In the month after beating the main story, I completed all of the challenges found within the levels, and I felt they were well constructed and fitting post-game content, for the most part at least. I enjoyed seeing how far I had come with keeping with rhythm, and some of the challenges essentially required you to be perfectly on time. My favorite challenge had to be the one where you had to defeat all enemies without moving the joystick. It was fun utilizing all the different alternative ways to move and push myself to keep the combo up. A close second favorite would be having to defeat all enemies without touching the ground. The grapple was a big positive in fights in the main game, so having a challenge completely centered around it was really enjoyable for me. But there were two challenges that had to be the most infuriating things I've had the displeasure of playing. Go ahead, get your skill issue comments out of the way. I'm fine with the challenge and have even sat through hours on Sekiro trying to defeat the butterfly lady. So I expect, and even welcome, hard challenges. But I expect the game mechanics to work consistently. With every hand-holding mechanic turned on, I still couldn't pull off basic combos required to complete the challenge. I was getting A and S ranks all throughout the game for rhythm without hand-holding, and consistently hit perfect combos. Yet this one mechanic doesn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And it seems like the devs knew it barely worked, since they thought perform a basic game mechanic twice was befitting of an in-game challenge. But this wasn't the worst challenge. Oh no. The challenge before this one had a non-functional mechanic and was heavily luck-based on the AI choosing to attack you. It's not a challenge to have to sit and wait and keep restarting until the AI decides to attack just right to allow you to finish within the time limit. I swear, you will spend more time sitting still in this challenge than playing. And when they do attack you, you better hope the countermeasure counters the right enemy, because if not, womp womp, you fail the challenge. I became so proficient at countering I could blow through phase 1 in seconds. But the range enemies in phase 2 confuse the game so much it doesn't matter if your camera is focused on the one you're countering. The game may decide to counterattack the one not even on the screen. But once I struggled through those challenges, the secret ending was unlocked, where, come on, if you think I'm gonna tell you the secret ending after doing all the work, you're crazy. Let's just say the sweeper robot may be the most powerful character in the game. I did enjoy the playthrough of the secret level though, and felt all the aspects of the main game were once again executed flawlessly here. It felt like a purposely crafted experience that was not an afterthought, and serves as a great farewell to the characters. For now at least. I really hope we get a sequel, and to that end, I'm gonna start plugging things into the wall now. What, that doesn't make any sense? Well, it would if you achieved the secret ending. Guess you just have to buy the game and do just that. Now, let's switch tracks and talk about the second standout of the game, the music. Shocking, a game about music has a great soundtrack. But Hi-Fi Rush goes a step further in ensuring both the licensed and non-licensed tracks are great. Oftentimes, content creators just mute the music in games since there's no streamer mode or alternative music just isn't that good. The devs wanted everyone to get a full experience here, and I felt just as engaged and fulfilled listening to both the licensed and non-licensed tracks. There's one level, however, that I feel has to be played with licensed music enabled, and that is the penultimate level. Out of copyright concerns, I can't play the audio here, but I will put the album art and track information on the screen now. This level was so cathartic for me, from start to finish, and it largely rests on this track. I couldn't help but stupidly smile as all the characters came together to help Chai as he traversed both the 2D and 3D platforming sections while fighting a giant mech. The initial build-up with a mini flashback for each character while you play Rock Band with goosebump-inducing slow burn track was the perfect start. Every character playing a role in reaching the final boss, while the perfect track plays in the background, was great main mission content. The set pieces, the dialogue, the enemy variety, the color palette, literally everything about this level was perfect. And I'm not overstating or overhyping or blindly praising this level. It was probably one of the best levels I've played out of any game. It's one of the clearest levels in my head, even several weeks removed from the game. I implore you, do not look this level up and spoil it for yourself. I truly think it is worth experiencing firsthand and then watching a playthrough of it for nostalgic purposes later on. If the game ended here, I would have been 100% satisfied and still gave them a 10 out of 10. The only negative thing I can say about the music is that I wish there was more artist variety in the licensed category. I understand there may have been some financial deals that couldn't be worked out, but I could have done with one less 9 Inch Nails song. And that's coming from someone who enjoys the genre. With that said, I do think the songs they did pick fit very well with the levels, and I didn't get the feeling that they had to force songs to fit due to limitations. There is a great music offering here whether you go licensed or unlicensed, and I'd honestly encourage you to play through the game with both. Hi-Fi Rush has some additional bonus tracks if you decide to put the CD in backwards and play it in reverse at 1.25 times speed. Too outdated for you? Well, alternatively you can walk around the base and find an arcade cabinet. Within this machine are 2 new modes, BPM Rush and Power Up Tower Up. Both were appreciated additions to the post-game content, serving as much needed breaks when the Spectre challenges had me ready to hang it up. BPM Rush was enjoyable since it constantly ramped up the fighting speed and changed the music tempo accordingly. It made me wish the main game had a tempo setting since the faster paced battles hyped me up and pushed me even harder to chain massive combos together. The only downside is that the tempo is the only thing that's really changed here. Otherwise, it's just more of the same fighting you've encountered throughout the main game. This was felt more the further into the mode I got, with each BPM requiring larger numbers of enemies to be defeated. I never felt tempted to quit, but I wasn't clamoring to have any more rounds once it was over. Power Up Tower Up, on the other hand, ventures into new territory for its gameplay. It's roguelike, utilizing all the upgrades from the main game as skills you acquire as you defeat various waves of enemies. This mode captured my attention much more than BPM Rush. And no, it's not because Zanzo is the mastermind behind this, but it was nice to see him again. Obviously, the randomization of upgrades helps with the replay value of this mode, but I most enjoyed having to think a little bit more before engaging with the enemies, with each run forcing me to change my strategy a little bit. Now, it's no Slay the Spire or Risk of Rain 2, so I didn't have to fundamentally change my playstyle each time, but what's on display here is worth giving a shot even if you've played those games before. I legitimately think there's nothing else I can say about the game. I could go on about the amazing art style found in both the game and the still and the animated cutscenes. I could sing my praises again for the well-developed and lovable cast of characters, whose personalities manage to shine fully no matter where they show up, even as 2D images with short voice lines.
Arm up.
I could gush over the unique gameplay elements, the interactive world, the perfect music, and the cat level again. But I won't. As much as I'm tempted to, there are truly no other words I can use to describe this game and do it justice. My final score for Hi-Fi Rush is... You didn't think I'd do this review and not address the Scottish elephant in the room, did you? The one that got people to buy the game just to watch Chai get choked by her. You know who you are. If you're just joining us here on 90.6 Antiquated Radio, it's your host DJ Metanoia, and we've been discussing the highs and lows of the game Hi-Fi Rush. And we've honestly heard nothing but highs. Let's see if our next caller continues that trend.
Hi, I have to be honest with you. I didn't play the game yet, but I watched a video of every cutscene with Corsica, because I'm convinced they tried to create the hottest character in video game history, and I think they achieved it. Here's my analysis. She's tall, has white hips, broad shoulders and red hair. And if all that wouldn't be enough, a genius writer had the totally necessary idea that after a fight, her clothes get damaged and she gets some battle scars, exposing her biceps, her cleavage and ripping her tights open. For plot purposes, of course. And that's just her visuals. Don't get me started on her personality, man. It's perfect. They gave her a fierce temper, coupled with a Scottish accent, the most attractive accent in the world if you ask me, and most importantly, her weapons, which are 2 electric batons. They are great for fighting for sure, but me personally, I just want her to spank me with them.
Alright, that's enough of that. Isn't somebody supposed to be vetting these calls? Corsica is just perfect all around. She's a computer genius, Scottish, a redhead, and wields a big stick. She puts out fires, both metaphorically and literally. She also asks the pressing questions in life, like why does a coffee pot need a firmware update? What more could you want in a woman? Her boss fight was a fighter-style countering session where you walk round and round in circles and try to talk things out with her. And I can't confirm nor deny failing a few times just to keep staring at that Scottish face with those eyes to kill. Corsica, please, if you're watching this, hit me up. You can use that big stick to do whatever you want, including... The bottom line is, you need to play this game. It's that simple. You'd be doing yourself a disservice by skipping one of the best games of the decade. Hi-Fi Rush has earned a golden 10 out of 10, and if you still aren't convinced after hearing me rave about this game, just go back and listen to the unscripted segment again. Listen to how happy and starstruck that guy was after beating the game. I can count on one hand the number of games that have left me in such a state, and Hi-Fi Rush is one of them. And I can almost guarantee it'll be one for you too.
Don't try to run from us.
Only 1 out of 4, Corsica? It's not a passing grade.
Yeah, Corsica. What's up with
He
that?
knows where the others are. I'll get him to talk.